The question about how do I choose my geographic farm is such a big question, but I find that it's not that complicated. So let's deconstruct this really quickly. It's interesting. Number one choice, of course, is the neighborhood that you live in. And so there's so much interesting play around this. I talk to agents that are brand new to seasoned veterans of 20 years in the business, and they're like, my neighborhood, what? And so there's a lot of confusion around this. But point number one is all of the surveys from Zillow, National Association of Realtors, when they survey the customer and they ask them for what were the qualities or characteristics in the agent that you hired, and they give them a list of options, the one that always wins, it's always number one, is the hyper local expert. So the fact that you are weirdly not farming your particular neighborhood makes no sense, because you can easily position yourself as the hyper local expert, and that's what the consumer's attracted to. There we go. Now, one of the big misperceptions is, of course, this whole concept around turnover rates. Well, Patrick, there's not enough turnover rate. It's not 6%. It's not 5%. There's not enough sales. Well, hello, it's your neighborhood. You live there. I don't care if there's 5 sales a year. Why wouldn't you have 2 or 3 of them? Perfect example of this is my father-in-law, Kai, who's just an amazing realtor. He lives in a niche community called Lomas Serenas in Escondido. There's 350 homes, and the turnover rate is not good at all. It's really low. One year there was 8 sales. So if we were just looking at turnover rate, we were looking at sales, then we would be like, oh, this is not a good idea. He lived there. It was a great community. So we just worked on it. We did a bunch of great stuff. Next thing you know, of the 8 sales, there's 2 sides to each sale. So that's 16 sides. Next thing you know, he's getting 4 sales a year, 6 sales a year from each side, buyers and sellers, making a couple $100,000 from his low turnover rate niche community that there wasn't enough sales. Hello, guys, we got to stop this. Some of the thought process out there is very, very, very ineffective. What can we do with your community? Now let's talk a little bit about communities. Okay. So when, like, that one was perfect. It's a community called Lomas Serenas. So the neighbors identify with, I live in Lomas Serenas. Kai could say, I'm a neighbor in Lomas Serenas, and I'm a realtor in Lomas Serenas. That's very powerful. There's something subconscious about the identity of that. So let's take a look at your neighborhood, jump onto Google Maps, look at your neighborhood and kind of what's a geographic territory? Is there a subdivision name? Is there a neighborhood name? Is there a community name that people would identify with, right? So that's something that you want to be looking at as a part of this process. You're the hyperlocal expert and there's a neighborhood. Now let's jump over to the numbers. Okay, so let's take a look at these numbers. What we need to do is we need to look first at how many homes are in that community. Okay, so in La Costa Valley where I lived, there was 1,100 homes. There was 4 subdivisions, all one HOA. Okay, 1,100 homes. Now, how many sales annually? When I looked, there was like 39. When I went back the year before, there was like 36. When I went back one more year, there was like 42. So on average, 40 sales. Then I looked at total sales volume. If I added up every one of the sales, the total sales volume was, for easy math, it was roughly about 40 million. That's cool. So the average sales price was $1 million. That's pretty cool too. So the average commission check is 25,000, 2%. Okay. But remember, there's 2 sides to every sale, the buy side and the listing. So actually there's not 40 sales, there's 80 sales. 80 sides. Oh boy. So if there's 40 million in sales volume and there's 80 sides, so 40 million times 5%, average 2.5, 5%. That's $2 million in gross commissions available in my neighborhood. I should probably get some of that, shouldn't I? Yes. So some of the things that I saw that happened with Kai that was really insightful for me too was he would also get, not only would he create income just from the buyer and the seller from the geographic farm, but he also, some of the buyers who wanted in, he would list their house in the community. So one house he could get the listing, get the buyer, get the listing over here, and get three sides from one sale. So when you're the hyperlocal expert, these things happen for you. So don't let the limitations that you have about turnover rate, sales, get in the way of you dominating this little geographic territory. Okay, so write out the numbers: sales volume, sales, sides, average commission check, average commission, total commission available, and then what's your goal for percent market share. I love what Tom says, total addressable market, the TAM. Okay, so what's 20% market share in units and commission to you? So should you be getting 20% market share as a goal? Of course. Now let's talk a little bit about the next big question that everybody asks, which is how big, Patrick? Well, I don't know. As a business consultant and coach, I'm trying to figure out your capacity. We're going to look at the numbers. We're going to look at the geographic territory. We're going to talk about this kind of, is there a group, a community of people that identify with this name, right? So there's a couple different factors in this thing. But as you jump into the event strategy, right, video that you should watch of mine in this playlist, and when you jump into the how to create no budget, no problem video on how to create listings from sweat equity, not check equity, right, and figure out how to build some profit from this thing first before you go into direct mail and use direct mails as a high expensive but solid return. We need to really look at kind of your capacity for the event strategy. Because if you have a small 500 community, you can run an event, it's no big deal. If you get to 5,000, that's where it gets tricky. So it's really about capacity, but it's also, look, this is not about this year. It's about the next year. It's about 5 years from today. It's about 10 years from today. So if we started small and then worked on our systems and structures and then started to expand and grow and scale, that's really what we should be talking about as a business consultant. So what questions do you have about your geographic farm? Put them down in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. Hit the notification if you want to be notified of any of the new content that I'm doing. Make sure you watch the playlist for geographic farm, right? And watch all of those videos, the sweat equity, the relationship capital one, the event strategy, and this one, of course, on how to pick and what are the numbers. I look forward to helping you. Have an awesome day.